Assalamualaikum, kia
Welcome.
ora, greetings. And for our Australian guys, g'day. Welcome to another Voice of Islam show. Today we have Brother Dawood Takwal, a revert to Islam. Not sure how many years ago, maybe I think it's 2009 from what I read. And he's going to tell us his story today on how his journey came from where he was into becoming a Muslim. Brother Dawood, g'day, greetings.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam barakatuh. It's good to have another Aussie on the program.
No worries.
So, Brother Dawood,
Hmm.
so tell us a little about your background. Where
Well,
you're raised, and where you were raised in a religious background or things like that.
uh, I'm a fifth generation or sixth generation Australian. Um, Always been a country boy. Born and bred in Seymour, just about an hour's drive north of Melbourne. My parents, my dad was a altar boy at a church when he was growing up, and he wasn't really religious when I was brought up. I was brought up to respect all cultures. My parents were very supportive of multiculturalism, respect for others, and that stuff, but they weren't really religious. And basically, we just grew up. I just grew up a normal country kid, play footy on a Saturday. During the summer, it was always going to the swimming pool to go competition swimming. Apart from that, it was basically just normal country kid's life in a nice rural town called Seymour.
Yeah, Seymour's a nice town. It's just, as I said, it's just out of Auckland. I think it's like north, sort of north out of Auckland. Auckland out of
Auckland.
Melbourne. Sorry, sort of about north. I used to go through it years ago as part of my work. I was a sailor,
Heading towards
traveling
Sydney.
shop.
It's on the main road
Yeah,
between Melbourne and Sydney. Yeah.
yeah. Because later on, I used to bypass that because I used to come from the southeastern suburbs, so I'd bypass that a lot of the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
nice little place, nice and
Beauty.
nice. And it does get hot there, though. I know.
It's warm. Yes.
I know where it was getting hot there a couple of times when I went and stayed there the night and went for a run. It was about 40 degrees, and I went for a swim in the river somewhere. I think it was a river close to the
The Goulburn,
towns.
the mighty
Yeah,
Goulburn.
Goulburn. Yeah, so a whole lot of other people there. It was a nice cool off. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was good. So you said your father was an altar boy, so he would have been Catholic then, way
He
back
said he was
then.
Anglican.
Oh, was it? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
think England had, because I was an altar boy back in my day as well.
Yeah.
But that was I was Catholic then. So,
But
but
once Dad went to university, he sort of went away from the church. He was more worried about school, the typical things,
yeah,
education, that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
when my brother and I were born, basically, um, Dad just said respect each other, that kind of stuff. Dad's way of supporting social multiculturalism was actually giving a couple of dollars extra tip to taxi drivers, to Indian taxi drivers. That
right,
was his way of being like very
yeah,
multicultural.
yeah. Well, at least it was showing respect to them and things
Yeah,
like that. So
yeah.
that was good. So,
Hmm.
was there many? I was up in Seymour back in those days. Was there many non-Australians? I suppose I started to get
Not
around then.
real. There are a few like South Pacific people, but not
Yeah,
that many of them. I knew of
yeah,
a few.
yeah,
Um, Few Europeans and like people who are first generation, second generation Australians,
yeah,
but mostly we were very racist. Our school was like spot the Asian and that stuff was
yeah,
one of
yeah,
the games we used to play.
yeah. Yeah, because like back in Melbourne, in the day, I was growing up and schooling in the 70s, and we had a lot even in the early like primary school. We had the Italians and the Greeks, and then the Vietnamese, and then the Lebanese, and things like that. So so we probably in Melbourne's a little bit more multicultural
It is
because
massively
it
multicultural
is
now.
known as a multicultural place. It had, I think, in terms of Greek, it had second biggest population of Greeks next to Athens. So that sort of thing. So yeah, so it would have been. I know some of the other rural towns like Shepparton and Bendigo, and that had a bit more.
Shepparton's
Um,
now known as the most multicultural city in regional Victoria.
oh right,
One of
yeah.
the most multicultural in Australia.
Oh really? Because I know it
Mm.
was quite a lot back then. Back in that's probably early '80s, mid '80s.
Yep,
When I used to travel through there a bit,
yep.
and and that sort of thing. So, so where did you, so you weren't raised in a very religious background. But where did you come across Islam first?
I
Like
used
how did
to,
you,
brother, dad, mum, and I, we used to travel down the main road to Melbourne. And as you know, before all the freeways got connected,
yeah,
we used to go down Sydney Road. And Sydney
yeah,
Road in Coburg and Brunswick, you'd see a lot of people with hijabs, women with hijabs, women in niqab. You'd see men with beards. And
yeah,
I can remember always thinking, gee, obviously there's a reason why they're wearing it. You wouldn't just
yeah,
wear a hijab or one of those things on your head for the sake of just doing it. There has to be a reason why they do it. So as a young kid, and as a kid with, I've got a little bit of autism.
yeah,
I went home and I just studied. I studied obviously there's reasons behind why they do it. And I
yeah.
found a book about Islam, sort of like a Dummy's Guide to Islam. It wasn't actually called the Dummy's Guide to Islam.
Well, there is one of those actually. There is
Well, I did.
one book called
I
that.
didn't read that, and I found that I actually agreed with pretty much everything it said.
Yeah,
And as a 9-year-old, as a 10-year-old, normally they're not the things you think about. And I thought, gee whiz, I'm Muslim. I believe in all these things.
yeah,
And mum knew at a very young age that I wanted to be Muslim. So at age 12, she bought me a English translation of the Quran at age 12 because
yeah.
obviously she said, well, obviously this is a phase. She thought it was a phase
Phase
originally,
can go through. Yep.
but then she realized probably when I got to about 21 and I was going through depression that, this is obviously what you want to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned that depression. And I did read a little bit of a bio about the timing and stuff like that. So do you think that part of that depression might have been that you're stuck somewhere and you couldn't get out, and like you
I
felt,
didn't like who I was becoming.
yeah,
I was a swimmer, a competitive swimmer. So
yeah,
I was always scantily clad
yeah,
in races. There was no other Muslims in my town
yeah,
who I know of.
yeah,
And I just didn't fit into their culture. I mean, when a kid got to 16, he was going out partying, drinking, and that stuff. I'd be
yeah,
sitting back with my dad watching the footy every Saturday and Friday night.
yeah,
And, I wasn't feeling comfortable in that stuff. And I have a bit of autism, as I
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah,
So that was added to my concerns, my worries.
yeah.
And by the time I got to 17, I was suicidal. I mean,
Oh, right.
from
Yep.
about 12 to 17, I was feeling depressed and lonely and,
Yeah.
an outcast. And by
Isolated.
17, I
Yep.
was feeling suicidal. And I didn't stop feeling that way till I was about 24. And I still
Yeah.
felt negative even after that. Now I still feel sort of like going through treatment for my depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been a harrowing time then. Sort of like you sort of had something in mind what you wanted to do, but then you couldn't get to it because you couldn't find anyone to relate to it. You had a book and like a English translation of Quran, so it would have been that sort of difficulty where you're sort of thinking, well, I'd like to be there, and then I've got other things pulling me back and things like that. So
Well, most kids when I was growing up, they look at Sports Illustrated and they look at supermodels and that stuff. Me,
yeah,
I used to look up National Geographics at women in hijab.
yeah, right,
I mean, most kids my age growing up were basically looking at, the most, supermodels and swimsuit models, and I was looking at women in Arabia
yeah,
wearing hijab and niqab.
yeah. It's totally different. So,
Yeah,
so during that time, did your friends see that that's what you're looking at and things like that,
I was.
or you went a bit more insulated, like you sort of turned into yourself and sort of kept to yourself more?
I didn't really have too many friends. In a country town, everyone pretty much knows everybody.
Yeah,
So I had a lot of acquaintances, but the people who were my friends, they pretty much saw me as the Crow supporter, the Adelaide Football Club supporter in the AFL, Australian Rules Football.
yeah, yeah,
They knew me as basically the sports nerd because with
yeah,
my autism, I have special interests,
yeah,
and one of my interests is basically sports history, and
yeah,
sports stuff. But I remember one parent telling me about a few years ago, she said, when you were growing up, I noticed you were a little bit different. You were a little bit like more to yourself.
yeah,
That's because basically everyone else was going out partying and rebelling. I rather stay home and do the, relaxed at home things.
yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
much of a party person.
Yeah. So, a question then: how come the Adelaide Crows? Like,
My grandparents were South Australian,
right. Yeah,
and
yeah,
we used to go to Adelaide to see them, and they
yeah,
lived 5 blocks away from Glenelg Oval.
yeah, yeah,
And when
yeah,
the Crows came into the competition, 3/4 of the Glenelg Football Club effectively went across to play for the Crows.
yeah,
And I thought, well, I'm getting into the AFL. Crows are coming into the competition. I'll break
yeah,
for the Crows.
yeah. Fair enough. I think they've had some good results in the last few years, haven't they?
Last couple of years have been pretty bad, but
Oh,
before
pretty
that, we
bad.
were
Yeah.
competitive. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because I moved to Perth in the early '90s, and then I started going with the West Coast Eagles.
Oh, they're a good team.
Yeah. But yeah, my old team was Footscray, and I believe they got successful just recently since the first.
2016, they won the flag, and last year they missed out in the grand final. They were leading in the third quarter,
Yeah.
and then got absolutely towered up in the last.
Yeah, and whenever I barracked from, this was way back in the '60s and early '70s. They were nothing. They were nobody. They were just, you just barracked for them only because our greengrocer used to play for them years and years ago. So that's how I went for them. But
fair enough. No worries.
Anyway, we got off the subject.
Sorry about that.
So no, all good. So then, how did you, like you said that what interested you in Islam? You were studying and learning about it. So what actually after that time? How did you actually then become Muslim? Like, is it just?
Well, with my years of depression, my dad was paying for hospital visits and doctor's visits, and I had to stay in hospital for weeks to try to calm me down and that stuff. I was suicidal, and then Dad just sat me down one day, and he had this pile of medical records that this high,
Yeah.
and he just said to me, "Clearly, this Muslim thing you're going through, this is not a phase. This is obviously something that you've really thought about and you've wanted to do." And I said, well, I wanted to do it since I was 12 and now I'm 28. So, I think of
Yeah.
And he's gone, well, as long as you don't become a terrorist, as long as you don't fund a terrorist organization and go off to Afghanistan and fight with the Taliban, you can be as Muslim as much as you want, as long as you still be a good son.
Yeah.
And so I went to an Eid festival. There was an Eid festival down in Melbourne.
Yeah.
In Flemington.
Yeah.
And I saw all these women dressed in long hijab and men wearing beards, and I just felt like I was home. I was crying all the way through, and I was thinking, I'm home. I walked up to the sheikh and I said, I want to be Muslim, and he was saying, well, first of all, wipe your eyes. You look as though you just seen a chick flick. And so I wiped my eyes, said my shahada. And then he said to me, why are you crying? I yelled out, I'm home. I'm finally home.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the day, they gave me free food. They gave me free everything. It was great. It was fantastic. I thought, I could just embrace Islam every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you sort of inherit, and you sort of from that, you get a whole family, a massive family.
And I felt like I was finally with the family I always wanted to be with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure your father probably realised, well, it saved a lot on hospital bills and medical bills after a short while.
Well, because Dad actually said to me a year and a half after I embraced Islam, he said, if I'd known that this was going to make you a happier, calmer and fulfilled person, I would have got you to embrace Islam when Mum gave you that Quran.
Yeah, back when you were 12 or something, was it? Yeah, yeah. So
I'll tell you a story. This is kind of strange that I tell everyone this story, that basically one day we were driving down Sydney Road and we went to this service station, and I saw this Muslim woman pouring petrol into her car. And I was just 12, probably 11 at the time. Yeah, about 11. And she was pouring petrol, and I wanted to be part of a Muslim family. I always wanted to have a Muslim mother. I always wanted to have a mother who I could hug and she'd be wearing the hijab. Yeah. So I walked up to this woman, didn't know her from a bar of soap. And I said, I told him a story and told him a case. And I said, can I join your family? And she's looked at me like I'm some sort of deranged lunatic. Yeah. And she said, okay, hop in. Knowing that I wouldn't. She played my bluff. Yeah. And I've gone, probably gone in a bit too deep here. So I'll just step back and nice seeing you. Take care.
Yeah. So who was more scared? She was probably going to be scared if you actually did, and you're probably scared if I did what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, who would know what would have happened? Then all of a sudden, your parents might be calling the police and saying this person's kidnapped my
Yeah,
son.
she hit my son, but Mum found out a few years later, and she's gone, "Well, gee whiz, it would have been uncomfortable because the family laws and that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
don't think you would have been allowed to go into that car." The poor old
Yes.
lady, I remember the lady, she was looking at me strangely, and the three kids in the back of the car with her car were looking at me like, "What the hell is he doing? What are you doing?"
Yeah, yeah. So very interesting time, sort of, that sort of thing, going up and doing that. So you're very, very, stern on what you want to do and how you want to get there. It's just took that time getting there. So moving on then with once you actually become Muslim, because I know it was that period between 12 and 28 was a trying period, so I don't want to dwell on that too much because that's sort of history, and we just move on with that. So how did your friends and family react? Like your parents seem to be okay about it because they're the ones that sort of took you there. But how's the?
No, I took myself to the Eid festival. No, my parents just said, "Just do your own, just do your thing, do whatever rocks your boat."
Yeah. So
my brother, we had a dinner about a week after I embraced Islam. Peter came up from Melbourne. He's 5 years older,
right.
So he's come up from Melbourne with his wife and that stuff, and we're having dinner. I pulled him to the side as we're getting a drink, and he said, I said to him, "Pete, you realise I've just embraced Islam, become Muslim." He said, "So what? You believe in God? I believe in God. Big deal."
Yep.
So he couldn't care less.
So that was easy.
Yeah. Whereas Mum and Dad were like, as long as it makes you happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So so that by that time, did you still have other friends from school and things like that, or did you sort of moved on from those?
I moved on from a lot of them. I've still got a few friends on Facebook that I still talk to.
Yeah.
And they're pretty much high school friends. One's basically we were inseparable from kindergarten to year 12.
Yeah.
And he just always says, "Tucky, how are you?" Because Tucky's my nickname. He says, "Tucky, how are you?" all the time. He couldn't care less.
Yeah.
As far as he's concerned,
You're still the same person. Yeah.
I'm Tucky the sports nerd.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the Crows fan. That's all they know me as. It's like, so he follows Islam. Big deal. But
yeah,
the thing is, you do realise who your real friends are.
Yeah.
Because in a country town, everyone knows everybody. And once I became Muslim and became obvious from everyone that I became Muslim, quite a lot of people who I didn't necessarily get on with, they started to just ignore me.
Yeah.
Or they started to do that kind of stuff. And one time my wife, who was working at the school as a helper, these women were, gas bagging, chatting about, have you heard that Mrs. Tuckwell's son, he's become Muslim? Oh, I hope he hasn't become, radicalized, or that kind of stuff. And my wife's just tapped the two ladies on the shoulder, and she's gone, I'm Muslim myself. That you're talking about my husband.
Yes.
And then they started chatting, and they realised that no, I hadn't become some fundamentalist terrorist. That I still was an Adelaide Football Club member.
Yeah.
And that I still loved being in Australia. It's just that I wanted to embrace a religion that was a bit different to theirs.
Yeah. And the thing is, because like most people think, well, once you become a Muslim, or a lot of people might think this, maybe we shouldn't say they think it. The non-Muslims think, well, once these people come that, and even some Muslims think that once you become Muslim, then you got to throw all that sort of stuff away. Well, it's not, I was playing Aussie rules footy when I was still Muslim. I was getting a bit older then. I actually didn't start playing until I was about 27. From when I was really young, 14, 15, I'd stopped playing about then. But, I moved to a rural area outside Melbourne, Pearcedale on the Mornington Peninsula. I don't know if you ever heard of it, down sort of near Hastings, Cranbourne area. I was playing for a small country, club there, and just went along, and I was fasting and playing, and and that sort of thing. And I didn't go. After the match, I didn't drink with them or things like that. I went and just went with them, and we sort of celebrated the one win or the loss. But after that, I just went my own way, and that was sort of it. So you can still do these sort of things. I still enjoy a lot of things I do, like climbing mountains and stuff like that. So I still do that. Go and pray on the mountain. It doesn't stop you. And that's the sort of thing that, talking about this sort of thing lets people know that once you become Muslim, you don't sort of say, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, certain things you can and can't do, but other things like, you know, you into your sports, you know, and that sort of thing, which is good. You know, it
Well,
doesn't stop
I'm a
you.
swimming teacher by trade because I used to be a
Yep.
competitive swimmer, so I still teach swimming.
Yep.
I mean, that's
So,
my job. That's basically my passion is basically swimming teaching. So I haven't completely distanced myself off Western culture because I do something that Australians are very good at, swimming.
well, exactly. And Australians are very much outdoor. Most of them live along the coasts, and so you know, go swimming at the beach and that sort of thing. And you know, it's nothing wrong with that. You know, as long as you do it in the right way and stuff like that, and it's all good. You know, and that's the sort of thing. So you know, so apart from the swimming and the footy, is that the main things you keep you occupied with?
I'm a sports nerd, so basically any sport that's on TV, I've got all the.
That's most of Victorians are like that, isn't it?
Yeah,
They say
I've got all the streaming apps with all the sport on. I love studying history of sport. That's what I read about and what I learn about is the history of sport, like statistics, key events and that stuff. Yeah. Well, my poor old wife, she just goes in the other room. She just completely she has to cop it all the time. I know. Yeah. I know heaps of things about heaps of sports. My wife she just gets annoyed with me sometimes. She goes, right, just cool, but I'm not really interested. Thank you.
That's your thing, not mine. It's like my wife with me. I said, look, you want to come up the mountains with me? No, I'll let you go, but don't take me with you. So, yeah.
So my wife has been long suffering, having to put up with me talking about sport all my life.
All right. Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm sure she's got some interests that she might tell you about as well.
Oh, she does, but
yeah,
but I'm sort of with my Asperger's, with my autism, I sort of just blurt it out. Blurt it out. You know, did you know this happened on this day, or ask her questions which she has no knowledge about because it's not her interest.
Yeah, well, it's coming from Victoria and Melbourne mainly. Like for those who are watching who don't know, but Melbourne and Victorians are known for the sport. They say if two cockroaches are walking, they're going to bet on who's going to win and things like that. There's always
the one on the left. I usually go for the one on the left.
One on the left, is it? Yeah. I probably tend to because I'm left-handed as well. So that's what. All right, so that's what I'd be tending to go the one on the left as well. So so anything that's sporting, Melbournians are into it. You know, doesn't matter what it is. So which is good in a way as long as they keep them fit and things like that. As long as we're not all couch potatoes and not getting involved, but if getting involved a bit, it's good as well. So
we've been in lockdown for so long in Melbourne, the most days in lockdown anywhere in the world.
Oh, I know.
Probably put on a bit, like a bit of a cheek, got a bit bigger. So once the lockdown finishes, once I'm back at work, I'm going to hit the pool. Just hit the pool every day.
So didn't your lockdown finish on Friday or something? Yesterday?
Yeah, but my swing centre doesn't open for another week.
Ah, right.
We have to wait till 80. We have to wait till 80% is fully vaccinated.
Yeah, we're in lockdown over here. Haven't been like you guys as long, but our latest one's been I think 10 weeks so far, and they're telling us we've got to be 90 plus before they'll let us out. Yeah. Like that's in Auckland. Other parts of the country are opened up, so we're in still level 3, which is you can sort of can work, but it's because we have level 4. We're in level 4 and then went to level 3 just about 4 weeks ago. Level 3 we sort of work, but it's very restricted, masks and all sorts of stuff and things like that. So a lot of my family is still in Melbourne. My mother's there and brothers and sisters spread all over the place, and in parts of Victoria and also other parts of Australia. So what part, we talked about what Islam is and things like that, or how you came to Islam. So what do you think for the viewers, those who aren't Muslim yet, maybe able to tell them a little bit about, so what can Islam offer the ordinary people?
I ignored what the media said about Islam. Everyone says to me, weren't you turned off by Islam from the media, all these reports of terrorism? I couldn't care less. My parents have always said, judge the person individually. Judge people like respectfully and that stuff. Don't look at don't generalize over a whole group of people of a few bad apples.
Yeah. And
if you want to learn about Islam, go to the most valuable source, the Quran.
Yeah.
Go to a local sheikh. Go to a lecturer or two of someone who is reputable in that stuff. Yeah. And ask people. I didn't when I lived in Seymour, I had no one. There was no Muslims around. So the only chance I got was to look at people with the hijab on and that stuff. That was my track. And the hijab to me was like wasn't a symbol of oppression. It was a symbol of respect. It was a symbol of, I respect myself, and I don't care what the Western fashion.
Yeah.
I'm more into pleasing Allah, pleasing my God.
Yes.
Wearing it to only please my husband. And I actually knew that part of it before anything else, really. Even though I'm not a Muslim woman, it's just like that was one of the first things I found out why they wear it, and actually thought, well, good on them. They're not giving into Western fashion. They're actually just wearing it because that's basically to please Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, if you listen to what a lot of the sisters, because over the years we've recorded a lot of sisters who are reverts telling their story, and they're all wearing hijab, and they say that they're actually liberated when they were wearing the hijab, that more so than the Western women where they seem to be having to make their hair and make themselves look beautiful and things like that for society, where, because we interviewed some, professors and engineers. Actually, one sister was from Queensland, Brisbane, and she was an engineer, and she was saying how, when she went to job site, she's wearing the hijab and the long and everything like this, and the people treated her as a person rather than looking at the beauty and things like that. And she said, well, my knowledge and my ability says what it is. I don't have to be showing off for anyone else apart from what my abilities are, and that's what it is. Then it frees you from all that sort of stuff.
To me, the hijab, now I'm married, to me it's a crown.
Yeah,
it just does. And you always see on Facebook always these posts that people say the hijab is your crown. It's true.
Yeah.
To me, my wife wears the crown. Her crown is the hijab, and to me, I'm married to a hijabi princess. I'm married to a hijabi queen.
Yeah.
To me, the hijab is also a symbol of not pride and arrogance, but more just pride in oneself.
Yeah.
Pride in knowing that I'm doing it for the honest reasons. I'm wearing this for reasons that I know is best for me.
Yeah. And that's, we know that as Muslims, we know in the Quran it says that we need to cover that. The men have their own sort of hijab way of dress. It's not as known or stands out as much as the women, because the women, you can sort of see the sisters, you can see them, they're Muslim, where sometimes us, you can't tell because beards are back in vogue now. So if you're just wearing a beard and stuff like that, then people may not know. That's why for me, I always wear the hat, the cap, because then it was just to say, people say know that I'm Muslim, and then they come up and they sort of look at me and they ask my name, Muhammad, and they sort of, the name doesn't go with the look, being white and blue-eyed and that sort of thing. And I said, oh, Muhammad Thompson. And I deliberately did it like that so it creates people to ask questions.
People still call me Tucky. That's my nickname. It's like in the swimming school I was in my hometown, I was always Tucky. No one knew me by my first name. And one time I decided to play a trick on everyone. Instead of writing down the name Tucky, I wrote the name David, my old name David, and no one knew me.
No one knew what you were.
Who's this David?
Yeah.
You're not David, you're Tucky. So, no, my name's David.
Yeah. So they never knew. So that's the thing. So but that's good, because at least if they still recognise you and still call you Tucky and stuff like that when you go back there, but they still know, they probably know you're Muslim most.
Yep.
So it's good, because it means that, and also that just shows that people are more accepting these days. Because I know when time I became Muslim was just after the revolution in Iran. So it was 1981. So it was a couple of years after that. My father said, oh, you're not going to go join Ayatollah, are you? And I said, no, I'm not joining Ayatollah.
No.
And that was about the only thing he said, apart from that, it was, just, as long as, you're not doing this and that. And they didn't see, they only saw good change in me. So, and I'm sure that, there's sort of things most people say, that when they become Muslim, they actually become a better son, better friend, better this, because they're more looking to care for their parents and things like that. And especially people used to drink before and that sort of thing, and they're not doing that now. They become better human beings as well.
My parents weren't worried about my drinking because I swore off the drink. I never touched. I had one sip of alcohol as a little kid, and I just didn't like the taste of it, so I swore off it.
Yeah.
And so I never drank alcohol after that little tiny sip.
Yeah.
And I mean, every time I used to give Dad a beer, like Dad said, "Oh, give me a beer," I'd wash my hands thoroughly afterwards. I would literally that stuff. Whenever my mum sat down with a little drink, like alcoholic drink, I'd push the bottom of it away from my sniffing area, so I couldn't sniff it. I just don't like this. I don't like the look of it. I don't like the taste
look of it. Yeah, that was like my brother.
So my parents knew that I wasn't a huge alcohol fan.
Yeah,
and they knew I wasn't much of a party person because my idea of a good Friday night, being a typical Victorian, as I've mentioned, Pepsi in one hand, pizza in the other, watching the footy. That was my idea of a Friday night.
Yep.
Thursday night was watching the footy, whatever footy shows came on.
Yep.
During the week, it was watching even just Foreign Correspondent or foreign shows and that stuff.
Yeah. No, let's So you were sort of like you said, you were there. You were already there. You just had to find right. Where do I sign up? So you're basically there from a very, very young age, and you just then had that time. I don't know that there's obviously a reason for it. That time, between when you sort of were so interested in Islam, and it took that such a long time. That obviously maybe it was a training or this or that give you more patience. I don't know. There's obviously a reason for it, but we may never know what that is.
And now I live in what I call Little Baghdad, which is basically Broadmeadows, which is basically one of the biggest Muslim populations in Australia. Like Broadmeadows is like one of the biggest in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like southeast Melbourne, but it's like a lot of Lebanese, a lot of Turks, a lot of Somalis and that stuff. It's great. I feel like I'm in this little world of Muslims. It's wonderful. It's like a big community.
Well, I know, as I was saying to you before we came on air, every time I go back to Melbourne, I visit the My Centre and see Abu Hamza because I've known him for many years. And, you feel comfortable. You walk around the shops, everyone's saying hello to him, and the shops are Arab. They've got the Arab writing on and stuff like that. No problems with the halal food.
They're building a swimming pool at My Centre at the moment. And I'm hoping that once the swimming pool's built, they might want a swimming teacher.
Yeah. Well, that was being built from when I was there last time. Was 2019. It was last time I was there.
Still getting built. It's taking a while.
Taking a while. Yeah, because
it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's indoor pool. Have they started the school yet there as well?
Yep. My college has started. Yes.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing when I was last there. They were trying to get the approval and stuff like that, and they just notified me not long after I left there, 2019. It got the approval, which is great. So it's good, and they got so it's great. That whole area is going to be a good little area for those who want to live in a good Islamic area. It's great. Yeah. It's got everything there.
Exactly. And I live basically a stone's throw away from there. Basically, I think about on Google Maps it says about 900 meters from the mosque.
Oh, it is
just like a little walk down, and I'm there.
Yeah, because that was pretty industrial area. So
it was, yes.
So have they built some residential? I know there was some apartments being built on that.
There's residential, like you go down near the train station. As you walk down the train lines, there's housing before you get to the residential. The industrial. Yeah. And that's where I live.
All right. Yep. Very close. Yeah. Oh, it's good. Anyway, I got off the subject a little bit, but still, it's all to do with it. So,
no worries.
So how would you describe life as a convert in Western society? Is there any conflict between being a Westerner or other nationality, as in Aussie, or anything like that? I know we discussed a little bit, but anything more you want to add on that as to
basically you know who your real friends are from your past once you become Muslim. Yeah, you learn who your real friends are. You learn. Even my parents have lost communication with some people because they don't feel comfortable with having someone who has a son who was Muslim. Yeah. But really, my parents haven't noticed any negatives. It's just been positives. I mean, I spend more time on the phone to my mum and dad now than I did before I was Muslim.
Yeah. It's like what I was saying before. You actually become a better son, better brother, better friend, because, I know my mother always, when I ring up, says, "Oh, you're the one that's most regular in ringing, and I'm the furthest away," and things like that. And it's all part of, trying to keep in touch and doing part of what we're obligated to do. As
my dad always knows I'm going to ring after 7 o'clock at night, and every so often when I ring at 8 or 9 o'clock, he said I was worried about you.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
So it's like an hour later, it's like I still call you.
Yeah.
And like every single night, I still call him every single night.
Every night. Oh, it's good.
And
Yeah,
we
I don't.
talk about, we solve the world's problems. We
Yeah.
solve the world's economic problems. My poor old wife sits there one day. She just wanted to listen to the conversation. She couldn't believe we talked for 2 hours about all the same stuff we always talk about.
Yeah.
Politics, sport, everything.
So is your father into sport as well? And
He got me onto it. He got me onto sport.
Right.
Yeah. Soccer, Aussie rules, rugby league, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't follow sport in our household, you're not going to have a very fun time.
Yeah. Fair enough. So you got young kids?
No, unfortunately, there's complications towards that, which means that we can't have kids.
Oh, unfortunately.
So,
I was going to, alhamdulillah, others, whatever others given is given. So
True.
And just enjoy what we have and enjoy the time with your wife and things like that, and the rest of the community there. So, in anything else that you wanted to add as notes to people who aren't Muslim yet who might be watching?
Don't be afraid to look up the religion. Don't be afraid to learn about it. Don't learn about it from the media. The media,
especially CNN and I don't know whether you got some horrible media over there that really pick on the Muslims. Sky News, well, it's all part of Murdoch, isn't it?
Yeah, and you've got even the ABC at times can be a little bit incorrect in their appraisals. Like the old government, they sometimes come up with different weird, definitions of it. It's not quite right.
Yeah.
No, just learn about it. Look, this happened to me. I was suicidal. I was gone.
Yeah.
My psychiatrist one time said to my mum and dad said, "How's he going?" He said, "I'd much rather you prepare his affairs."
Oh, right. Yep. So that's not very enlightening. Yeah.
And there was another one who actually said to me personally, that by the time you reach 25, I don't think you'll be here.
Yeah.
I was 21.
Yes.
So he said, by the time you're 25, I don't think you'll be here. So here I am. I'm now 40 years old.
Yeah.
I walked past him about 2 years ago, and I just smiled, like, "How you going?" and that stuff. And I think he recognised me because he was quite shocked to actually see that I was
still around. Yeah.
Around.
Yeah, and I expect that things are much better now than what they were, and you've gotten on top of that. Yeah. Yeah.
I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything He's given me.
Yeah.
Since embracing Islam, I've got a wonderful wife who practices Islam. She's also very supportive. She's my rock. She's basically my oracle.
Yeah.
She's the most wonderful person I've ever met in my life. Yeah. And I always say to her that she's my gift from Allah. For all these years of suffering Islam, I'm now suffering from pre-Islam. Now I'm a Muslim. Yeah. I've now got a wife who loves me, supports me, who understands me. I've got a job in the swimming industry that I love so much. Being a swimming teacher, I love being a swimming teacher. I've just got to wear a rash vest every time I swim.
Yeah.
I've got a home of my own. Technically, it's my own home, but my parents own it, but it's in my name.
Yeah.
But everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me, blessed me with after Islam, I cannot begin to describe.
Yeah.
You cannot begin to describe.
Yes.
The life I live now compared to the life I lived before Islam, complete opposites, polar opposites.
I know exactly what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying. And this is the thing. People who are non-Muslim yet, or even Muslims who are not, practicing or not understanding their Islam so much, they need to really get their teeth into it and really, get in deep to see what it's about. And you put your trust in Allah. And look, your brother Dawood here, Taki, I'll call you Taki. Look at Taki here. He's living proof of this. And it is. The time came for him to become Muslim, and that's how he. Not long after that, he met the wife and become. So that's probably the timing. Maybe she wasn't around in Australia or Melbourne at that time, or somewhere else.
We met in country New South Wales. I mean,
well, there you go. And this is the thing, and you get a good wife who is practicing, and because I'm the same. I thank Allah every day for my wife. I got the best wife, And with that, it helps you because it's like one's a cover to the other, and that's what it says in Islam, that one is a protection to the other, like a blanket. So you blanket to each other to keep you warm and things like that. So if one's a little bit down, the other one helps them up and things like that, and you're sort of helping each other, learn more on the journey, because the journey is fairly new for you, even though you've been Muslim now a few years, but it's still still always something to learn. And she's probably the same. There's always, you can help each other to learn different things. And
she teaches me, with my autism, she teaches me, like with Asperger's, it's more social cues and how to live through life. She's more of that type of teacher.
Yes.
And she teaches me so much about, I come home from work, or I come home from somewhere. I might be frustrated, or I might not be frustrated. I just ask her questions. Why did this happen this way? Or why did something happen this way? And she'd sit me down and she'd talk to me about, well, this happened because of this, and maybe if you'd gone a bit different, or maybe if you chose that different path. And she teaches me ways that I can improve myself. And she's the most incredible woman I've ever met, honestly. And my mum and dad know how much she means to me on that stuff. Like, she's incredible.
Yeah. No, that's one of the greatest, apart from your becoming a Muslim. And I have my first three things is thanking Allah for being a Muslim. Second one is health. Third one is my wife. In the range of things. So because without being a Muslim, I wouldn't have met my wife anyway, and things like that. And the health, well, I still think health is very important. But I tell my wife, you're third, but it's very close to second. So
I'm passionate about sport, and I mean, Indonesia's my wife's country, so basically every time Indonesia plays sport, I see on the internet whenever they're playing sport, I'll get out my Garuda, my Indonesian scarf out, and I'll go, "Come on, Indonesia, come on!" And when I basically, Indonesia's basically a part of me now, that I love the country, because that's where the most wonderful person in my life comes from.
Yes.
So I don't just support her; I support everything about her. And she's incredible.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
That's a great blessing, the blessing of Islam and the blessing of a great wife, and that's what really counts.
If you had told me when I was probably 19, 20, going through, or even 17, when I first went through suicidal tension, like even before that, and you told me that by the age of 30, now 40, that you'd be a swimming teacher at a school that everyone loves having you there as a teacher, they recognize you. You've got a Muslim woman who's a wife who is the most amazing person, supportive, and who's a practicing Muslimah. You've got a family who loves you to bits, who actually appreciates you more. I would not have believed you. I would have thought you were from another planet. The life changes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put me through in the last 12 years is just incredible. SubhanAllah.
It's like chalk and cheese. You're going from nearly extremes of one to the other. And that's the power. That's the power of Allah and Islam. That it can save those who want to be saved or find the truth. They'll find it. You just have to make that little steps. And you were making them from when you were so young, but it was it was just trying to find the quiet road to get to the to find where it was and find the people.
Sure.
I know when I became Muslim. I had to ring up and look up in the phone book, Yellow Pages. There's no internet in those days because I didn't know any Muslims this is 81. Didn't know any Muslims in Australia. I just looked up the phone book, got someone phone number of someone in Preston Mosque. You've probably been there at some stage. I'm not sure.
Yep.
That was one of the only mosques around, and they gave me a phone number and address of place. And the day I became Muslim was when I first met Muslims in Australia. It was in Ramadan. It's and that's the thing. I was sort of set on what I wanted to do. I'd sort of been studying it for a little while, and I travelled to Malaysia and stuff like that, and met some over there. But I was still searching when I was over there because I was up in the Himalayas and was looking at Buddhism and different things, and even Scientology back in the day, and the new wave, power of positive thinking back in the late 70s, and I was on a journey from several years, and it was good because I was transitioning from basically I was an alcoholic. And then moving away from that and trying to find the way, became vegetarian, all that sort of thing, and then came to Islam. Alhamdulillah.
What I love about Islam too, not necessarily Indonesia because the floors are all tiled to keep cool.
Yes.
But in church, I used to go to church, because my parents said to me, "How about you try church again?" because maybe you might get out of that phase. So I went to church, and they had these the pews with the chairs and the
Yes.
seats, and they're so uncomfortable. Whereas
Yes.
you go into a mosque in Australia, it's all carpeted.
Yes.
And one time when I first went into a mosque for the first time, the carpet was obviously just put in. I actually fell asleep. I actually was very tired, so I had a bit of a kip on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. I thought, this is great. A place where you can have stretch out a bit. Churches are so like you're in their little pews and that stuff. And
It's like sterile.
But the seats are uncomfortable. Whereas you go to a mosque and the mosque floor is so comfortable.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like it's more, I don't know, welcoming in terms of it's not sort of like it's not so regimented like where you see the pews and you just got to go there and just go in the lines and things like that. But in Islam, as you know, when we could be sitting all over the place and all of a sudden a call to prayer and you all stand up and then the perfect lines.
And what I also noticed is they call you brother. It's like the first thing I found strange was when I took my Shahada, I had the biggest sore back afterwards because you have everyone hugging you and patting you on the back.
Yeah.
And then, but all of a sudden when I go to the mosque, it was like, hey, brother, assalamu alaikum, brother. I'm thinking, I'm not your brother. What's my brother for? I'm an Aussie and you're subcontinent. Why you call me brother?
Yeah.
And they told me about it, and I thought, okay, cool, awesome. I'm your brother, awesome.
Yep.
So we're all brothers and sisters. It's like
that's right.
So you're from Pakistani, Lebanese, African. We're all brothers and sisters.
So when you become Muslim, you join the family 1.8 billion or whatever it is. So which is good. I don't know if you've travelled outside Australia after being Muslim, but you go to anywhere where you go, walk into the mosque. You can just go in there and pray, and you feel welcome.
I've been to Indonesia so many times that they say sir. They always call me sir. I say don't call me sir. Call me brother.
Brother, yeah.
Because sir, they call Donald Bradman sir. They don't call me. Call me
exactly.
Sir.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because I travelled to Malaysia a bit before I was Muslim, and even after I was Muslim, and you just go there and you go to pray, and you don't know anyone there, and they come up to you and start talking. They invite you to their house and have dinner with them and stuff like this. And I'm sure it's the same in Indonesia because they're very similar. Background, and that's the beauty of it. You see, that's the beauty of Islam, where you just go to somewhere you don't know the people, the language you may not even know, and they just invite you. Same as I was in Turkey, the same sort of thing. They invite you, talk to you, and it's just you feel welcome and you feel part of that big family.
What attracts me to Indonesia is that, and you probably hear this in Malaysia and Turkey. Every time there's call to prayer is always on the loudspeakers, and during the day they'll be reciting Quran and doing that kind of stuff on the loudspeakers. And I thought to myself, this is the kind of country I like. This is great. You walk down the street, and you'll be hearing a little kid reading Quran or something, and then all of a sudden call to prayer, and everyone just stops what they're doing. Literally, just stops what they're doing and goes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and the good thing is the mosques are everywhere as well. Or a sarau or prayer place, or the train station, bus station's always got a place to pray and that sort of thing. So, but I think in Australia, especially Melbourne as well, there's still heaps of them around now.
They're getting more and more.
Yeah, compared to when I first, there's only just a couple around when I first, became Muslim and that. So, but now, alhamdulillah, is even in New Zealand, there's more and more coming up. So, which is good. Which means Islam is spreading around. And though it would be, I always wanted to go and live in a Muslim country, but I felt that having been Westerner, I thought, well, maybe there's a job to do in the West, and that's to help other people and show other people, and and that's why we have this program. The Voice of Islam, we do a lot of the recordings of people telling their stories about how they became Muslim, and we also do other live programs on different topics and things like that. Even doing with corona and vaccinations and pandemics and whatever the topic is of the time, we talk about those sort of things as well. And it goes out to Muslims and non-Muslims. So it's sort of like spreading the message, and this is part of what we have to do as well, as being Muslims, and those who are more from the country, that country, like Westerners in a Western country, it's a little bit easier because you can talk to the people a little bit easier, and they can sort of not have that blinkers up so much because they sort of before you sort of start talking about Islam, they sort of already welcoming.
We're Sky News' worst enemy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Well, that's what we should be. So
yes,
let them feel worried about
yeah.
what's happening.
Because
So
in reality, I mean, there's no difference between what I was in the past to what I am. The only difference is it's made me happier. It's made me more
yeah,
content. It's made me more realize there's a purpose behind life. You see,
yeah,
growing up, you know, my dad and mum are school teachers. My brother's a massive accountant, one of the great accountants in Melbourne.
yeah,
And yet here I was, a kid going through year 11 and year 12, thinking this is what I had to do. I had to chase the material things. I
yeah,
had to go out and get my degrees and drive around in fast cars and, that kind
yeah,
of stuff. Where all I wanted to do was teach kids swimming and practice Islam.
yeah.
And yes, you can do that. You can teach Islam. You can teach swimming and
Swimming.
be a
Yep.
Muslim. But
Yes.
because when I was growing up in a non-Muslim environment, I thought that I had to get all the accreditations of getting a lawyer or a doctor, and I had to be
Yeah.
smart. I had to go to university. Yeah, you can do that. If you're
You
not meant to
can.
do
Yeah.
that, then that's cool.
Yeah.
You can be a swimming teacher regardless.
Exactly. So it's whatever it is. Like if you're a street cleaner, we
Yeah,
need street cleaners are very important because you've seen some of
massively.
these countries where they don't have the people taking all the rubbish away. What happens after a few weeks?
Yeah.
So whatever it is, we have to be the best as Muslims. We have to be the best at what we do.
And there's
So
also
if
a
we
purpose behind
yeah,
life. There's always this.
exactly.
I mean, everyone asks you, obviously, what is the purpose in life? Well, the purpose in life is we worship God. We thank God for the
Yep.
blessings we have. If you could sat down and got a piece of paper and you wrote down all the blessings you had in life, you'd have to use a whole book of it.
Oh, you couldn't.
Going through
Yeah.
all these exercise books, going through
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
notepads. You
Well,
would,
it says there's a saying. I'm not sure if it's hadith or I think it's hadith. Could even be in the Quran where it says, to be able to mark all the attributes of God and all the things He's given us, you'd need the seven oceans plus another seven oceans on
yeah,
top of it, and all the trees as the pens to be
pens,
writing
yeah,
it, and you'd still wouldn't have
yeah,
enough.
yeah,
And that's the thing when you start thinking about it, you think our eyes, you think our eyelashes just to
yeah.
keep the dust out. It's just so much. It's just
The eyes
mind-boggling.
itself, the amount
Oh
of
yes,
the science that's created in that,
yes,
it's just incredible. And also, so basically, you've been given all these things, so you're not going to say thank you.
yeah.
When you get given a thing as a kid, the first thing my mum always taught me was, whenever you get given something, say thank you.
Yeah,
So we are taught to say thank you by prayer.
yeah, and
By
that's the
prayer.
thing. And we should be all the time. And that's even a lot of Muslims aren't that good on that or doing it enough. So it needs to be all the time that because there's so much we're given we just take for granted.
Massively.
Even just living in Australia
Yeah.
or in New Zealand, where you could be in some of these countries where all you're worried about is whether you're going to die that in the next hour because the bombs are falling down or there's no
Yeah.
water or water's polluted or this that. We turn on the tap, get beautiful water and just drink straight out of the tap and
Yeah.
food and all this.
We've got
Just
the best
those
meat.
things.
Australia's home to the best meat supply in the world. New Zealanders may argue.
Well, I was going to
Australia's
say, I've
Yeah.
been living in New Zealand a long time now. I was going to say
Yeah.
New Zealand will probably be pushing that one against Australia
No,
there.
well, we keep on telling ourselves we've got the best meat and produce. So, we've got to be grateful for that because there's people in around the world. I go to Indonesia and we go down the back streets of Indonesia, at the poorer communities, and the kids have got the clothes on their back. They've got a flat ball, and that's all that. And they've got maybe one or two bits of other clothing. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's all they've got. So it's like whereas I've got tons of clothes, my wife's got about 2 or 3 wardrobes of clothes. She's got countless shoes. Like every woman's got to have countless pairs of shoes, and we've got all these blessings. I've got a big screen TV. The TV that we watched at in Indonesia is probably about a quarter of the size.
Yeah.
And it's all fuzzy. You can't get a good perception out of it. Whereas in Australia, we've got all these, and New Zealand, we've got all these wonderful things every day.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we don't work for them. We got given them. And we've got to say thank you, Allah, for all the blessings that we get given.
Yes, I know. And then we also have to be humble and look. We shouldn't never be looking up at what's above us. We should be looking down at those who are worse off. Because you've seen Indonesia. I do a little bit of work in Ghana, West Africa. We do a bit of. We've got a mosque over there we've set up, and we've got a school, and and go over there, you see the poor. Over there you see the poor and things like that, and like I just look at them and think, well, what I've got to complain about? Look, we're in lockdown.
We've got nothing to complain about.
Even in lockdown, the government's, which I'm sure is doing in Australia as well, they're giving some money to help you support everything. Over these,
JobKeeper. I got paid more in JobKeeper, way more in JobKeeper than I got in my normal job. I got $750 a fortnight. Now I could barely manage that in a month.
Yeah.
So I was getting paid $750 a fortnight. I earn way less than that. It's like, come on.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And then other countries who are poor, they've got to pay for the vaccination. I'm sure Australia are not paying for the vaccination. They just, they actually in some cases they're trying to pay us to go and get it. They're giving things out. I know over here they're giving out pizzas.
They had a $1 million competition to win $1 million.
Yeah,
I'd already had my vaccination. I'm thinking, am I part of that? Draw.
Can I get another one just to be in the draw for it? Yeah. And that's the thing. And these other countries are just so so we have to be grateful, and that's the thing. We have to be always grateful to Allah. Thankful. Like for me, like I said before, I'm always grateful to being a Muslim. I'm sure you're doing the same, and that's the thing. And I'm saying this to the Muslims as well, who are born Muslims. Really, you got to get to know your religion, to know your Islam, and really appreciate. Like my wife, she felt jealous of me because she said, "Look, you chose Islam. I was born in Islam," because my wife's from Egypt originally, and she was jealous in that respect. And then, like I think about 20 years ago now, she actually said, "Look, I'm going to choose whether study all these other different religions and see whether I'm going to still choose Islam." She looked at all these Christian ones and this ones and that, and she still kept praying and everything like that. And then she said, got to the stage where she said, "Now I'm a Muslim. I accept it," made the Shahada again and accept it. And she said now, since she's done that, she's 10 times better. She said she appreciates Islam more and, everything like that. And that's what I suggest to others who are maybe a little bit, not so sure or this or that, even though born Muslim, to go and find it. Yeah. Go and search it, research it. Don't just accept, I was born Muslim, because that's, it's not good. You need to totally in your heart accept it and say that's what you want and willing to fight for it, to keep it, because you don't want it. It's, for you, it was a battle. For me, it was a battle. I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give it up in a hurry. It's just, it's too hard fought to, and I know what I was before, and I don't want to go back there. And
no.
So, and that's the sort of thing. So we need to, do that. Yeah. So you're into sport. So rugby.
Rugby. Even though I'm Australian, I do support the All Blacks.
Oh, because they're winners.
Australia hasn't won a Bledisloe in since 2003.
I was going to say 200 years nearly, is it?
Since Johnny Eales kicked that goal, they've never won a Bledisloe.
Yeah.
19 years or something.
Yeah, a long time. Yeah. I know before coming to New Zealand, being Victorian, I never followed rugby. No. I wasn't that much on sports. So only when I went to Western Australia for a bit, I sort of a little bit, but all the time, even because I always had an affinity with New Zealand because I lived here in a bit in the 70s, late 70s. So I always liked the All Blacks. So if I it was rugby, it was always a little bit that, but since come to New Zealand, it's always just totally.
I also follow soccer like Liverpool and Adelaide United. I follow an Indonesian team in Indonesian soccer. I follow cricket, Australia. Right. I follow soccer. I follow swimming, competitive swimming. I watch the men's events because we always told in Islam to lower our gaze. So I try not to look at the female events.
Yes.
I watch basketball, cricket, soccer, rugby league, every sport you can imagine. And basically all I do is just basically watch so much sport and read about so much sport. Basically, I get home from work, I just chuck on the TV and on goes Fox Sports.
Yeah.
One thing Murdoch has done that's good, I've got to admit, sport.
Oh, Kerry Packer used to be good at it. Didn't he do the...
Yes.
But I don't know if he's still around. Yeah, World Series Cricket, yeah.
And not just that, you've got also the other apps now starting to buy into Murdoch Sports. So they're buying into taking some of the sports over that Murdoch necessarily doesn't want. So basically, I've got all these apps on TV, and every time I get home from work, on they go.
So why don't you become a sports writer or something, sports reporter or something like that? That's
I'm sort of a sports reporter at work. It's like every
all
time
right.
I walk into work, it's like, Tucky, what's news in sport today? Because
Yeah,
they're all university students, or they're single, or
Yeah.
they're working mums, and I just come in and I give them like a 20-minute spiel on what's happening in the world.
yeah,
My wife says to me, I don't even need to watch news anymore,
yeah,
because when I get home, it's like my husband just gives me a 20-minute spiel on what's happening in the world.
yeah.
And that's part of my autism, but that's great because all
Yeah,
I
but
do is I inform people with a 20-minute lecture on what's going on in the world.
Yeah, so they say, right, that's good. I don't have to follow the news. I've just
No.
got it from Tucky now. That's it. That's
Sweet.
he's
Awesome.
taken it all in,
Yep.
assimilated it, and worked out what I need to know, and just told me. Yep,
Yeah.
it's good.
My wife has stopped watching TV purely and simply because she's got her news source, she's got her
Yep.
sports source. She only watches South Korean dramas, because South Korean dramas in Indonesia are huge. So
Oh,
it's
right.
like every
Yep.
time she gets home, it's like on go the South Korean dramas.
Yep. Yep. Oh, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. At least she gets, her time, what she wants to do, and you do what you want, you
Yeah.
want to do. But you're still, doing the things together as Muslims. As Muslim
Unfortunately,
family.
even when she doesn't want to know certain things, I just blurt it out.
Tell
Just
her
like,
anyway.
I need to tell someone. It's like, there we go.
Yeah.
Did you know today New
Go on.
Zealand beat Australian rugby again?
Yeah.
My wife's gone, tell me when Australia win. So, yeah.
She's probably telling you to keep quiet then, because it's not going to be for a while.
It's not going to be for a very long while, no.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this, or you would have known the score then of All Blacks played the US yesterday.
Yes.
104 to, 14 or something?
Waste of time. Playing against minnows like that's waste of time.
It is, yeah.
Play against England, play against Wales.
Yeah.
Well, not Wales necessarily. Ireland, Australia, South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
Yeah. But really playing USA or Canada or that stuff, they don't play this game. They don't play.
I know. I think it's just to try and get them interested. But when you're going to get thrashed 104 to 14, who's going to be interested?
The great Sonny Bill Williams said that in Australia, the only kids who play rugby union are Pacific Islanders and the private school elite.
Yes.
No one else plays it. It's like I walk down the street and there's very rarely anyone wearing a Wallabies top. No one cares.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to worry about Aussie rules, every single kid's got an Aussie rules cap on, but no one cares about rugby in Australia because the only people who play it are private school chums.
Yeah, exactly. So it's elite, and then the Islanders who they say, oh, they're so big anyway that they can just bowl over anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. So, any last word you want to add to those
Be
watching?
proud of your faith, Muslims. Be proud of your faith, sisters. Don't listen to the fashionistas of this world or these people. The hijab is the most incredible thing, and trust me, as a non-Muslim growing up and seeing the hijab, to me the hijab is a crown, and the modesty that you cover yourselves with, sisters, that's what attracts people like me, guys who are very education minded. We love that. The hijab and the niqab, there's pride to that. There's a reason why you do that, and keep doing it because there's honestly, it's one of the best ideas. It's you're wearing it because you're wearing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's incredible. That's more respect for me. I had more respect for a Muslim woman than I did a non-Muslim woman, because a Muslim woman covered because she loved her faith. She loved and she obeyed her creator.
Yes.
And that's what drew me to Islam. The fact that women would do that and men would grow beards and men would, treat their women with so much respect. That's what draws people to Islam. The hijab, I kid you not, it draws people, especially women, to Islam.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah. Thank you, brother Tucky, Dawood.
No worries.
Good you have on our program. We'll have to catch you again sometime.
No
Take care and Walaikum salam. Enjoy your freedom once you get out. Back to work. Alhamdulillah. Take care, brother.
Take care.
And thanks for coming on our show. Take care.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam barakatuh.